what's going on? It's me, Ashley Marie, and I want to start off by saying thank you so much for tuning into my channel and watching my videos. I want to jump right into this video. So today's video I'm really excited about because it's basically a follow-up video to to one of my current videos on my channel, and that's how I passed my state board exam. This one is just going to be some of my key points and tips on how you can pass your state board on the first try. I do want to make it very clear that my state board test for nail technology was in the state of Pennsylvania, so everyone's tests will vary based on your states, but for the most part the information that they are going to be providing is always going to be the same for the most part, which you need to study for. But I will say that there are different types of there's different types of sections in each state. For example, I know typically when people take their state board exam, there are 3 parts of the test. For me personally, there were only 2 parts. So for me, I only did theory and procedural. But I believe there's also a practical part. And the practical part of the exam is typically when you do a service and they make you do certain things. So for me personally, it was only nail technology theory and theory and procedural. And theory is like the facts. What is this disease? What is this definition? What is this? How many minutes does this have to be disinfected? Yada yada yada. Whereas the procedural is, what would you do if yada yada yada. Rada rada rada.
Rada, rada, rada.
Like that's the difference between the two. And then when you get practical, that is, hey, do this service. So I want to jump right into it. Any city in Pennsylvania, your nail technology exam will be like mine. So please keep in mind, I can't give any questions out or any information about what is in the test exactly or specifically, but I can kind of give like just a little information to help you guys out. Just so you guys know, I've been practicing, or I was doing my nails and I ran out of nail glue. So you're going to see just one hand with nails on. I did print out a piece of paper from the National Nail Technician Bulletin, and it just talks about the things that are needed when you're doing the practical exam. And some of the key services that you're going to be judged on or graded on is setup and client protection, manicures, nail tips, nail wraps, sculptured nails, and polish. And you have to either have a mannequin or a model. If you do have the option, I would definitely say have a model, just because I know sometimes it's always good to have that like emotional support. And if you have a friend that's your model, that might ease your nerves a little bit and kind of help you out, versus you just having like a little fake hand like working on. So that's something that I think is really cool, that they give you the option to select. It's just really different, and it really depends on what state you're in. A lot of the sections, manicure is 20 minutes, nail tips is 20 minutes, wraps 20 minutes, polish 10 minutes, clean up. They're just looking for everything that you would typically do when you're giving a service. So I will put a link to the sheet so you guys can print it out if your state does still require you to do practical in your exam. Once again, in the state of Pennsylvania, you only do theory and procedural, which are both multiple choice kind of questions. So the things that I think are very important if you want to pass your state exam, the first one is make sure you study your state laws and regulations. Those are important, and they're typically the same across the board in just the cosmetology field altogether. For example, in the state of Pennsylvania, you cannot, I believe in Pennsylvania, you cannot rent out salon booths. And I think that's still like weird because you see all the time where people are like, oh, I got an empty chair in my shop. If you want to come and pay, you can do it. But that is against the law. And if the state board found out you were doing that, you could be required to pay a fee or a fine because you're not supposed to do that. So you have to know these regulations. If you go onto your state board's website and scroll down to cosmetology, there should be a bullet that or a hyperlink that takes you right to your state board laws and regulations, and you want to study those because, like I said, they're the same across the board. So when you take the test, they might ask you questions that are about a salon, a hair salon, or something like that, but the question is a law question. Like, oh, if you're working in a salon and, you know, where do you have to have your certification, your nail tech license or certification, do you have to have it posted? And that's by law, you have to. It has to be seen by yourself, your customers, clients, so they know that you're licensed, and that has to be shown. As well as it's mandatory that you have the state board's like telephone number posted in your salon so that if anything is wrong, a client can call the state board and say whatever they have to say or whatever. So these are things that you have to study and know that are very important. The next thing I think is super important is studying nail diseases and disorders consistently. Don't just study them once. I like to rotate. So one day I might work one, or what I was doing was one day I might study state laws on Monday, and then Tuesday I study diseases and disorders, and then Wednesday chemicals, and then Thursday I go back to nails and diseases, because that is the majority of your test. The majority of your test is nail diseases and disorders. It's crazy. That's like the majority of it. So it's very important that you study those like every day, if not every other day, because you want to get them into your memory. Even if you don't remember the exact spelling, or you don't remember how to pronounce it, that's something that you can learn over time. But as long as you know, like, hey, I know this definition, I don't know how to spell it, but I know what it is, and if I see it, I know it, that's good, because the test is multiple choice and computer generated. The next thing that's really important is know what you can and can't treat and the way you're supposed to handle it. If a nail is bruised, can you do anything to it? What services can you provide? Is really important for you to know. If someone has fungus, what's the steps that you need to do? You have to know the diseases, which is important, and you have to know whether you can or cannot treat different disorders. That is so important because it will ask you on the test. A client comes in with the nail plate falling off of the nail bed. What can you do? Or like just little things like that. You have to know the facts. The next thing is that I thought was really important are the different massages that you can give your clients and what each massage promotes and what it helps with. You have to know what promotes relaxation, what promotes blood flow. It's just super duper important that you know those things. And I think the best way to study, I know for me, was flashcards. Flashcards are key, like key alert, like flashcards are really great. Study buddies help so much. For me personally, I would have like families and friends and even coworkers when we were just chilling in the office, like, can you read this definition and help me out? And they would be like, all right, whatever, I might pronounce them wrong, but I'm gonna spell it out for you to help, because I know I can't pronounce this word. And it was very helpful. It takes a village. A lot of times people say, like, with kids and stuff, but just with a lot of things, sometimes it does take a village. You can't do everything by yourself. So I think that's very important. And then also, like I said earlier, you want to rotate your studying habits throughout the week, throughout the days. You don't just want to study once a week and that's it. Study 3 times a week or 4 times a week. Give yourself a break, but you want to make sure you are studying and doing everything you have to do, because unless you have a condition where you can just look at stuff in like a photographic memory, you have to study. You have to just take everything in every day, which is really important. Like I said, finding your state regulations. You want to go onto your state board website. go to the cosmetology tab, and then it should give you a link or something to your state laws and regulations. That is the main thing that you need to do. I know for the 2 sections that I did, the theory and procedural, it was not a long test. Typically, I believe they give you 2 hours to take the test. I believe I finished in about 45 minutes, which is really good because you want them to give you as much time as possible, but you don't have to use all that time. Don't overthink questions. If you know an answer and you're confident about that answer, click it and go to the next. It's not the end of the world if you don't pass. But I always like to say, don't rush to do something just because other people are doing it or you think that that's when you need to do it. I did take a year to take my state board, but it was other things that were in the mix on why it took me so long to take my state board, and I'm really glad that I waited, because if I would have jumped right into it after finishing school, I probably wouldn't have passed on the first try. So take your time. Taking the state board is expensive. It's about $93 a test, like to take it, $93. So unless you have $93 just laying around waiting for you, definitely take it when you're ready and you know you want to put the money out to take it. And that is it. Oh, another thing that's really important about your state board is knowing about your blood spill procedures. That's super important because you need to know what you need to do in case bodily fluids are exposed. Know that you need to stop doing your service, step away, take everything off, remove any fluids, throw away, sanitize, sterilize, disinfect everything. Like, you have to make sure you're protecting yourself, your client. You want to apply your antiseptic or whatever it is, cover the injuries, clean up everything, double bag it. You want to be on your A game, because it is very important that you know what to do, because bodily fluid is like a no-go. Also, in the state of PA, nippers are a no-go. Anything that can possibly cause bodily fluids being exposed or anything, no. That's why a lot of people in the salons, when you get nicked and you know you're bleeding, that's like hazardous. So they always just suggest that you use like a cuticle pusher, but never the nippers. Not in the state of Pennsylvania. That is a no-go. So like I said, just study, take your time, do it when you're ready, and you will definitely pass your exam on the first try. And yeah, that's my video. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.